afternoon, everybody. My name is Wendell Pritchett. The mayor has asked me to once again chair the Philadelphia Educational Nominating Panel, adoption of rules, procedure, and election of officers. I would like to call this first meeting of the panel to order and note the presence of a quorum of the panel. In attendance we have, so I'm actually going to ask everybody to introduce themselves, and we also have a colleague on the phone, and we'll start with Reverend Camarda. Bonnie, you just want to introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Reverend Bonnie. Yeah. Reverend Bonnie Camarda,
Thank you.
Director of Partnership for the Salvation Army and Vice Chair of Hispanic Clergy of Philadelphia.
Thank you.
Kimberly Pham, national activist, member of the National Council of Young Leaders.
Peter Gonzalez, President and CEO of the Welcoming Center for New Pennsylvanians.
Ivy Olesh, Executive Director of Playworks.
Mara McCarthy, Executive Director of the Fairmount Park Conservancy.
Rosalind Wichenik, President, Unite Here, Local 274.
Darren Mangum, Director of Institutional Giving, Opera Philadelphia.
Sean Vereen, President, Stepping Stone Scholars.
Thank you. And Ms. Nadoff is on the phone.
Stephanie Nadoff, former Director of Commerce.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and look forward to working with you. So the first order of business for the panel will be the adoption of rules of procedure for the panel. I note that a set of rules have been circulated and that each member of the panel has a copy of the rules in their information packet. Copies are also available on the table for anyone else who is in attendance. Are there any questions on the rules, panel members? If there are no other questions, I would like to recognize Sean Vereen for a motion.
Thank you. I move for the adoption of the rules of procedure.
Thank you. I recognize Maura McCarthy.
Thank you. I second the motion to adopt the rules of procedure.
Excellent. Thank you. All those in favor of the adoption of the rules will signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Right. Hearing none, the rules of procedure are hereby adopted. So the next piece of business will be the election of an official chairperson for the panel. For the purpose of electing the chair, I would like to turn the administration of the meeting over to Sean Vereen.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Rosalind Wichenik for a motion.
Thank you. I move for the election of Wendell Pritchett as chairperson of the Educational Nominating Panel.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Bonnie Camarda.
Thank you. I second the nomination.
All those in favor of the election of Wendell Pritchett as chairperson of the Educational Nomination Panel will signify by voting aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, Wendell Pritchett is hereby elected chairperson of the Education Nominating Panel. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vereen. Thank you all. I look forward to working with you and honored to have this opportunity to continue to assist the mayor in the appointment of the Board of Education for the next 4 years. So the next order of business will be the election of the vice chair of the panel. As the rules of procedure state, the chair is to serve in place, the vice chair is to serve in place of the chair when he is or she is unavailable. The chair recognizes Ivy Olesh.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Sean Vereen as the vice chair of the panel.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Bonnie Camarda.
Thank you. I second the nomination.
Excellent. Thank you. All those in favor of the election of Sean Vereen as vice chair of the panel will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Hearing none, I note that Sean Vereen is hereby elected as vice chair of the Education Nominating Panel. Congratulations, Mr. Vereen.
Thank you.
So the next order of business is for the panel to elect the secretary. I would like to recognize Kimberly Pham.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Bonnie Camarda as secretary.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Darren Mangum.
Thank you. I second the nomination.
Thank you. All those in favor of the election of Bonnie Camarda as secretary will signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I note that Bonnie Camarda is hereby elected as secretary of the Educational Nominating Panel. Congratulations, Reverend Camarda. All right, next, considering that all of us have busy professional and personal lives beyond this volunteer work, I think it makes sense for us to have the help of the mayor's office in keeping track of our meeting minutes and other administrative duties. And to that end, I would like to appoint Christina Hernandez, Director of Legislation in the Office of the Mayor, and as Assistant Secretary for the panel. Christina, are you willing to serve in this important role? I am. Thank you. We appreciate all of your support. All right. Great. So that concludes the election of officers for the panel. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting, of March 16, 2018, almost 2 years ago. And note that a set of minutes has been circulated. Each member of the panel has a copy of the minutes, and minutes are available on the table for anyone else who is in attendance. Are there any questions, panel members, on the minutes? If there are no questions, I'd like to recognize Sean Green for a motion.
Thank you. I move for the approval of the minutes from our meeting on March 16th, 2018.
Thank you. I recognize Reverend Camarda.
Thank you. I second the nomination to approve the minutes from our meeting in March 16, 2018.
Great. Thank you. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Hearing none, the minutes from our meeting of March 16, 2018 are hereby approved. So we have one final piece of business before we turn to our presentations. The charter under section 12-207D requires the panel to invite city organizations and individuals to submit names of qualified people for consideration by the panel. For a motion on this issue, I recognize Sean Vereen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the chairman be authorized to take the steps necessary for the panel to comply with section 12207D of the Education Supplement to the Philadelphia Home Rule, which requires the panel to invite business, civic, professional, labor, and other organizations, as well as individuals situated or resident within the city, to submit for consideration by the panel the names of persons qualified to serve as members of the Board of Education.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Durham Mangum.
Thank you. I second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Hearing none, the motion is adopted. In furtherance of this motion, I note that on January 7th, yesterday, 2020, the Mayor's Office of Education posted an application for the Board of Education on its website. Additionally, the Mayor's Office sent a press release on the same day that again highlighted this application. Any applications submitted online or in hard copy will be forwarded to the panel. Additionally, I request that the Mayor's Office of Education repost the application with notice that applications will be submitted to the panel and make paper copies of the application available at City Hall and the school district. Excellent. Thank you. So now we're going to turn to a series of presentations from the city to help inform our decision-making process and to provide us some guidance on our ethical responsibilities as we embark on this process. To that end, I would like to briefly discuss the process going forward for the panel. Because our work is to specifically discuss the appointment of prospective school board members, that work will be done in executive session of the panel that will be held in the upcoming weeks. After reviewing prospective applicants, this panel will reconvene within 40 days from today to officially vote to recommend 27 individuals to the mayor for his consideration and possible appointment. I would now like to ask Marcel Pratt, City Solicitor, to come to the table and provide an overview of the legal requirements related to possible appointees to the Board of Education. For panel members, please feel free to ask questions during the presentations. To signify your interest in asking a question, just please turn your table tent and I will call on you. Mr. Pratt.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcel Pratt. I am the City Solicitor of Philadelphia. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for performing this very important task. I know it takes a lot of work, and I appreciate all the work that you've done so far and the work that you will do. Next slide. So the law department is essentially the law firm for all of city government, all city departments, agencies, boards, and commissions, and that also includes this panel, which has been assembled to assist the mayor with nominating members of the school board. You should feel free to contact us at any time with any questions around legal advice. We do not charge by the hour, so you don't have to worry about that. And this presentation is designed as an overview only. This process is very complicated, and it would be impossible to contemplate all of the questions that could arise. So I'm sure you'll have things that come to mind as you work your way through. You should always feel free to reach out. But again, this process or this presentation is just an overview only. Next slide. So these are our two sources of law for this process. The first is the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, which is our local law, and then there's state law, the Public School Code, which contains a variety of provisions that's applicable as well. And there's also judicial opinions that interpret both of those. Next slide. So the Home Rule Charter lays out specifically what you're supposed to look for when identifying potential board members. And your goal here is to nominate board members that reflect a diversity of backgrounds, experience, and training that are representative of the city. And the charter gives a variety of examples. Again, they're not required, examples only, but those are on your slide deck as well. So you'll see current or former public school parent, or training or experience in business, finance, education, public housing, community affairs, or other categories as well. And again, the goal here is to get a very diverse board reflective of all those experiences. Obviously, you don't want a board that all has the same experience. So, for example, a board of all lawyers would not be a good idea. Next slide. Here are some legal requirements for board membership. You have to be a citizen of the Commonwealth, of good moral character, at least 18 years of age, and residents of the city for at least 1 year prior to appointment. And I think the rationale behind those requirements are self-apparent. There are also some prohibitions that you have to consider as well. The first is that a board member cannot hold any office or position for profit under city government. So essentially anyone who receives a paycheck from the city for employment cannot be employed by the school district, and you also can't hold certain types of public office that are listed under state law, and it's a pretty lengthy list, a little bit complicated, but I think the takeaway here is that if someone holds public office, you should consult with the law department first, and we'll provide additional direction. Some more prohibitions. Board members cannot serve on the board of trustees for a charter school located within the city. Board members cannot have already served on the board for 3 full terms, that's in the charter, and they cannot have been removed from public office for malfeasance or misconduct. And so those are prohibitions only. There are also some ethical requirements as well that apply to board members, and they will be advised on those separately. And some other things to note, items 1 through 4, so those that dealt with the positions that someone can't hold, those are curable issues in the sense of someone can resign from those offices in order to make themselves eligible, but the rest do not fall into that same category. There's also a non-student advisory member of the board as well that's provided for under the charter. Again, that person is a non-voting member, but this panel actually doesn't have a role in selecting the student member. The board does that itself and manages the students' participation. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the law department, specifically myself or Kate Janoski. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. I'd now like to ask Otis Hackney, Chief Education Officer, to come to the table to provide an overview of the duties and qualities of a Board of Education member. Mr. Hackney.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And before I get started, just want to thank you, echo Marcel's sentiment in thanking you for your service to our new members of the panel. Welcome aboard. For our returning members, good to see you again. And so I'm just going to quickly run through the duties of the Board of Education members. So as you're doing your research and vetting potential candidates, you have a good idea in mind of what we're looking for to support our school district. So just quickly, to understand the duties, they're charged with the administration and management and operation of the school district. They also work collectively to oversee all major policy, budgetary, and financial decisions for the school district. Their very important role they have is to appoint and evaluate the superintendent of schools. They do adopt an annual budget, operating and capital budget. They authorize the receiving of or expending of funds. They authorize contracts. And another very important role is looking at, in terms of review, authorization, renew, and revoke of charter schools. So when we think about what they're responsible for doing, these are things that must strongly be considered for the candidates. In terms of the expectations of board members, as we know now with our current board, there are huge expectations on this group. So one is attendance. They must attend regular monthly meetings. There are public action meetings that require a significant amount of time, I think, for our board members. This is a voluntary position, and so people, as you're vetting and you discuss with them, make sure that you share with them how much time is required for this. So when we think about the public action meeting, those meetings can go 4 to 6 hours in length. There are executive sessions that happen regularly as well, and those can be 3 up to 4 hours during that day, usually during the school board meetings. And then there are also committee meetings. There are several committees that the school board operates or conducts. So we want to make sure that those members are available to be present there. Also, they meet with the mayor and city council city council chambers to discuss the administration, management, operation, and finances of the school district at least twice per school year. That is a requirement. They also must attend budget and charter school hearings. That is usually 3 to 6 hours as well. There are finance and issue briefings that take place. Meeting preparation, we want to make sure that when they receive documents, they have to understand that they should review those documents before meetings because of the tight time frame under which they operate. We do ask that they do visit schools so they have a good idea of what's actually going on and happening in schools, and also attend community meetings. So now, what we also want to make sure for the last part is just the type of people or the type of qualities we would like to see in terms of the board, the nominees that you submit for consideration. And so when we think about the qualities for board members, that we want to make sure that they have a commitment to education, specifically public education, and ensuring Philadelphia has quality schools in every neighborhood. They need to understand the challenges of urban education. They need to be very collaborative with their colleagues and stakeholders, and have a strong commitment to deal with, an ability to deal with conflict. Demonstrated integrity is important, and dedicated to all aspects of diversity and inclusion. It's also great if they have previously attended a Philadelphia district-run school or public charter school, and/or has a child that has attended a district-run or charter school, and importantly, reflects the diversity of the city of Philadelphia. So these are things that we would like you all as a nominating panel to consider in terms of the candidates that you would like to present to the mayor moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
All right. So I'd now like to invite Ellen Kaplan, our Chief Integrity Officer, and Michael Cook, the General Counsel to the Board of Ethics, to come to the table to provide an overview of possible ethics issues for the panel and its members to consider. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to city service, those of you who are new to city service, and welcome back to those of you who are returning to city service. Very happy to have you all as part of the city family on behalf of all of us at the Board of Ethics. And thank you for having us here today to talk to you. I'm joined by Jordana Greenwald, our Associate General Counsel at the board. And today we are just going to provide you a very brief orientation to the city's ethics laws that will apply to you when you are acting as members of the education nominating panel. I believe you are going to have a full ethics training in the coming weeks, at which point we will go into these things in greater depth. But right off the bat, we want to make sure that you have the basic information. So the first thing we're going to do is just pass out to you copies of our ethics manual. And it provides a sort of plain language summary of the relevant laws, as well as in the back, the relevant portions of the city charter and the city's ethics code and the board's regulation about political activity. You'll also find in there business cards for me and Jordana, and encourage you all to please not hesitate to reach out to us either by phone or email if you ever have any questions or if you just want to talk through any concerns or issues that may arise under these rules. And so we recommend that when you have the opportunity, you look through the manual and familiarize yourself with the rules. It is geared towards city employees generally. There are some specific provisions related to board and commission members, which you'll see in there. And again, as you read through it, if any questions arise, please don't hesitate to contact us. I did want to just flag for you a couple key points with the ethics laws so that you have that at the top of your head as you start on your duties. And the main thing, of course, is that the reason we have these rules is to ensure that all of us, when we are doing our jobs for the city, are acting in the public interest and not for our personal financial or political interest or those of people who we are related to or in business with. And so you'll find that all these rules sort of come back to that central premise, whether it's through the conflicts rule that is in both city and state law, which prohibits us from taking any official action that would affect us financially or our family members or business associates, the restrictions that the ethics code imposes on gifts that may be offered to us by folks who are seeking official action from us or that we can affect through our action. And also with the political activity restrictions, which are laid out in the regulation that's part of the pamphlet, that prohibits us as city officers from using our position for political purposes or for being involved in political fundraising or taking part in the management or affairs of political campaigns or political parties. And then lastly, more sort of routine piece is that all of you will have to file annual financial disclosure statements. They are due by May 1st. There's both a city form that you will be filing and a state form. And you can access those forms through our website, which I think might be the next slide. Yep. Somewhere in there. Through our website, you'll find a link to the statements of financial interest and also other information about us that will get you started with both as you're doing your duties and then when it comes time to fill out those forms. Strongly encourage you to please take a look at the website. In addition to the manual, there's all kinds of information on there. And again, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We are here to help and are more than happy to talk through any situations with you. With that, I will turn it over to Ellen, who's going to talk to you about some things specific to the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Hello, it's very nice to see most of you again from 2 years ago, and welcome to the new folks. I'm Ellen Madelman Kaplan. I am the Chief Integrity Officer for Mayor Kenny, and I wanted to mention executive orders. The city's ethics code, which is described in the terrific manual that the Board of Ethics has put together, are applicable to all city employees, not just those in the executive branch. But there are mayoral executive orders that are applicable only for those of us who work directly for the mayor and members of boards and commissions who are appointed by the mayor. And I just wanted to say that this sometimes gets confusing, there are gifts provisions in the in your manual, but we also have a special gifts executive order that is stricter and than what's in the code, and we will talk about those at a greater length at a later date. But just the gist of it is, you folks are looking at people who are seeking the very coveted job of Board of Education members. And I will say, as Wendell knows, I have a soft place for this in my heart. My father was the president of the Philadelphia School Board in the 1980s. And whatever you're going to tell them about how much work it is, it's an understatement. Anyway, so just know that there are going to be people who want to talk to you about people who want to sit on the Board of Education, and they may offer you gifts. They may invite you to things. You cannot accept a gift of any value from anybody who is trying to influence your decision. So the better part of valor is just stop the conversation at the outset and just be aware that those influences may try to approach you. So in my office is the Chief Integrity Office, room 215 over here. I think there's a slide with the contact information. And please, you are certainly, it's not in there?
Yes, it is. It's in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will make sure you get it,
It's in
but
there.
you are certainly welcome to contact me at any point. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan. It's now my pleasure to invite Mayor Jim Kennedy to share some remarks. Mr. Mayor, congratulations on your inauguration, and thank you for your service to our city.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to everybody. And I want to thank you to the educational nominating panel members for agreeing to participate in the process of nominating individuals to serve on our Board of Education. And I appreciate that so many of the nominating panel members who served in 2018 have agreed to serve again after helping us return Philadelphia schools to local control and establish the new school board. And I'm also very grateful to the new members who have agreed to participate in this cycle of nominations. As you know, we're required to go through the nominating process at the start of every new mayoral term. In this second term, I'm committed to continuing our work with the school district and Board of Education and building on the success of the last 4 years. Together, we will ensure that our schools have the funding that they need to increase student achievement and support school facilities. And we will coordinate resources for students and families through community schools, out-of-school time programs, behavioral health services, career readiness opportunities, and much more. These goals are important for the future of our city, and the Board of Education will play a significant role in realizing them in the years ahead. 2 years ago, this panel helped us select a diverse board of experienced, skilled, and dedicated Philadelphians. They have served for just over 18 months and accomplished a great deal in that short amount of time. We all know there is still work to be done, and our current board members' experience, dedication, and demonstrated leadership will be an asset for that work. And so in order to sustain and advance the progress we've made, I ask that you include the current board members when you put together your recommendations. And I want to thank you again for your participation and for your service on behalf of our city students and schools. I value the time, experience, and expertise that each of you will bring to this process and look forward to reviewing your recommendations. Obviously, all of you who are sitting here know this is the most important thing as a city we can do, and that's provide our kids the opportunity to be educated and be ready for careers and ready to take on the world and be productive members of society and meet their own potential. I've concluded after all of my 23 years or so in council and my now 4 years as mayor, when I look at all the things we do in the city, whether it's on the negative, or stopping negative things or helping positive things, the one thing that will help us all positively and negatively is having an educated workforce, having an educated city. So, and as I've been in 4 years, I've been through hundreds of schools. I see the schools that are doing really well and the schools that are struggling and need help. And we need the board and the city to mesh each other together so that we can use our resources to help them do their jobs. This is not like the SRC days where it's their problem, it's Harrisburg's problem, it's our issue, our problem, and our success depends on it. So that's the most important thing you'll do this year for us is this. So thank you very, very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd now like to ask Jim Engler, the Chief of Staff to Mayor Kennedy, and Christina Hernandez to come to the table to provide an overview of the nominating panel timeline and process.
Sure, thank you. Sarah, if you could switch to the next slide. As Marcel mentioned when he went through some of the duties and responsibilities, the education supplement to the Home Rule Charter, this specific section 12207, really outlines the duties and procedure for the panel. The first step, obviously, is the mayor convening all of you, so thank you again for your willingness to serve, and doing so as soon as practical after the mayor's term begins. For us, that's about 48 hours, so thank you. It also states in here that you have 40 days once you're convened to submit the names to the mayor, and those are 3 names for each position. And in this case, it's all 9 positions, so it's a total of 27 names. And then as you've already done earlier in the meeting, there are certain advertising requirements that you have to do, and you've already authorized that. So as I'll mention in a few slides, we'll be moving that forward for you. So just a general overview for the Board of Education, for the panel. The panel serves a 4-year term concurrent with the mayor's term of office. And if a vacancy occurs on the Board of Education at any time during the mayor's term, we would ask all of you to come back together and go through this process again, considering the same number of people for however many vacancies exist in the Board of Education. Obviously, again, the role of the nominating panel is to recruit candidates, to review applications, to conduct interviews, and recommend, again, the 27 qualified candidates to the mayor for possible appointment. Again, you have 40 days to do that process, and the final date for submission of those names on this calendar is Tuesday, February 18th. The mayor has an opportunity, like we did 2 years ago, to ask for additional names. And he has to do that within 10 days, and then the panel has an additional 10 days after that to submit those additional names. Another change this year compared to where we were 2 years ago and historically for the Board of Education is that anyone that the mayor appoints is subject to confirmation by City Council, by a majority vote of City Council. So once you have recommended those names to him and he actually does the appointment, they then go to City Council for confirmation. Obviously, again, the panel is free to recruit in whatever means you would like to do so. The panel has to advertise the invitation and selection process under Section 8, following Section 8-202 of the Charter, which again we've already done earlier in the meeting. That means advertising once a week for 2 weeks in designated newspapers, which our procurement department will handle on your behalf, and it's the same way that we handle advertising for other city contracts. We have already made an application available in a number of languages. That application is available online as well as in paper applications, both here at City Hall as well as at the school district building at 440. And again, the application will be open starting today through January 23rd, 2020.
Good afternoon to you all. Again, I'm Christina Hernandez, the Director of Legislation for the Mayor's Office. So I do want to continue what Jim was talking about previously regarding specifically the application review process for the Board of Education candidates. Now, once the administration does collect all of those applications on your behalf, we will deliver them to you. You are then at that point free to review and evaluate those applications however you see fit. And deciding amongst yourselves what qualities and qualifications you will be looking for in those candidates. And as with everything else, we are going to be providing you with any sort of administrative assistance that you need. So the actual collection of the applications, sending them to you, putting together any packets or materials that you might need in order for you to effectuate your responsibilities. After the applications are collected and reviewed by the panel, then you will have the opportunity to conduct interviews with potential candidates if you so choose. Again, the panel gets to decide how it is or what the process will look like in terms of interviewing and in terms of reviewing of the applications. And if needed, we could do the same thing that we did the last time around with the panel members, which is conduct an interview with sort of a mini panel, so to speak, of 3 panel members with the interviewees in order to facilitate the actual interview process. Again, as always, the administration will support you in scheduling as well as the administration of the interviews, as well as providing any materials that you need during that process. As necessary, the panel can come together and review candidates and as well as have a second public meeting in order to make the final recommendation of names once you are ready to submit those names to the mayor. So after the applications are collected, reviewed, interviews, if any, occur, and meetings held by the panel, then you guys get to come together in a second public meeting as long as it's within 40 days from today in order to make that final recommendation to the mayor. And then so that you know, at your request, if you so choose, we can conduct a certain level of background vetting on each of the candidates before those recommendations go forward to the mayor, just to ensure that you are as comfortable as possible with each of the candidates that you are recommending to the mayor. And as always, we are happy to do those sort of administrative tasks, and we will conduct those background checks on your behalf. Additionally, just so that you know, prior to actual appointment to the Board of Education, the Mayor's Office does conduct a very thorough background check for the mayoral appointments, so that you can be assured and rest assured that any individual that does get appointed by the mayor does go through that thorough background check. And here, just to give you an outline of a timeline, obviously today, January 8th, you, the nominating panel, are convening. The application that we have posted online will close on Wednesday, January 23rd. Obviously, if we have additional discussions with you, the panel can direct us to change or adjust anything. So just to give you guys that primer. But this is just what the schedule that we have set forth at this moment. Then the administration will compile all of the applications as well as the paper applications and actually get them to you for your review. That will occur proposed between January 25th and February 4th. After that, you will have a second public meeting, hopefully around the 5th, in order to actually make those recommendations to the mayor. And finally, the date that you should keep in the backs of your minds that is fixed is the February 18th, that the final public meeting does have to happen by February 18th in order for you to comply with the rules of the requirements of the Home Rule Charter. And just to reiterate, February 18th is the last day. So I know that for those of you who were through this process last time around, it is a very truncated timeline. There's a lot of work that happens within the next 40 days, but to always keep that deadline in mind. Now, does the panel have any questions or concerns that the presentation raised?
Any questions, panel members? February 18th.
February 18th,
Did I
D-Day.
say that foreboding enough? Say a little different, February 18th.
February 18th,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Engler and Ms. Hernandez. That concludes the presentations for today. We are going to reconvene publicly to officially submit our list of potential candidates to the mayor. Any and all interested candidates are reminded again to submit their application as soon as possible. So before we conclude, I'd like to invite any members of the public who would like to provide public comment. Hearing none, that concludes our business for today. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for being here.